Hazel Levesque is a character from the Heroes of Olympus and Trials of Apollo, and in this video, I'll explain and share her life, from her childhood and to the events of the Heroes of Olympus. As usual, spoiler warning, and with that, let's get started. Hazel Levesque was born on December 17, 1928, to a mortal fortune teller named Marie Levesque and to the Roman god of the underworld Pluto. Before her birth, Marie summoned Pluto through a spell, and from that encounter, the two fell in love and had Hazel. After Hazel's birth, Pluto was so happy, and he swore on the river Styx that he would give Marie anything. Marie wished for all of the riches in the world, and Pluto was horrified. He told her that it was too risky of her wish, as it was too greedy, but Marie insisted on it. Because Pluto swore on the river Styx, he had no choice but to grant her wish. Marie's wish came true through her daughter Hazel. As a baby, Hazel was able to summon precious jewels and all sorts of riches from the ground, and Marie would collect them all. Marie started selling them for big sums of cash, but little did she know that her wish had a consequence. The jewels Hazel summoned each contained a curse, and soon, horrible rumors started to spread about Marie and Hazel. Instead of admitting it was her fault, Marie took out her anger on Hazel, saying that Hazel was a cursed child for summoning the riches. Growing up, Hazel went to St. Agnes Academy of Colored Children and Indians, where she was constantly bullied. Her classmates called her mother a witch, and she was picked on for it, but there was always someone who defended her. His name was Sammy Valdez, and he and Hazel became very close friends. Over time, Hazel developed a crush on him, and Sammy seemed to reciprocate her feelings. Everything changed, however, when Hazel turned 13. Hazel and Sammy went for a picnic, and the two of them talked about World War II, which was already starting during this time. Sammy then kissed Hazel on the cheek, and they rode on horses together. Little did Hazel know that this was the last time she'd ever see him. When Hazel arrived home, her mother was in a trance. Marie told Hazel that they had to travel to North, and a terrified Hazel accidentally bumped into someone. It was her father Pluto, and he told her that the Son of Neptune would one day erase the curse that Hazel had. Pluto then started arguing with Marie, and it ended with Pluto leaving. Marie and Hazel then left for Alaska, and they lived there for 6 months. Hazel enrolled in another school, and she was bullied once more. During that time, Marie would be possessed by a weird voice, and unknown to anyone at the time, the voice was Gaia. Gaia wanted to use Hazel's powers to resurrect Alcyones, her son, who was buried deep in the ground. One day, Hazel saw a tan horse named Orion, but when Hazel tried to approach it, Orion ran away. When she came back home, her room was trashed, and she saw a note that told her to meet her mother on an island. Hazel went there on a boat, and when she finally reached it, she entered a cave and saw her mother possessed by Gaia. Seeing her enter, Gaia stopped the possession, and Marie told Hazel everything. How Marie met Pluto, Hazel's curse, and Gaia. Gaia then told him of her plan of resurrecting a giant named Alcyones, and she told Hazel that Marie needed to sacrifice herself. Hazel protested and used her powers to summon all of the riches of the island, and she cried with her mother as the jewels and stones rose from the ground. The place exploded and cracked the roof, killing both Marie and Hazel instantly. This selfless act delayed Alcyones from resurrecting, and it would take years before Gaia tried to resurrect him again. Hazel entered the Underworld, and she was given the chance to go to Elysium, a realm where noble heroes go when they die. However, Hazel refused to go because it was revealed that her mother was going to the fields of punishment because Marie helped Gaia. Hazel argued against this, and it ended with both Hazel and Marie being sent into the fields of Asphodel instead, and Hazel would spend the next 70 years there. 70 years later, a demigod son of Hades named Nico the Angelo came to the fields of Asphodel in search of his sister Bianca, but instead, he found Hazel there. Nico felt bad for her, especially since Hazel remembered her past, unlike the rest of the spirits there in the fields of Asphodel. Making his decision, Nico took Hazel through the doors of death and brought her back to life. Hazel and Nico became very close after this, and they bonded like siblings, as they both shared the same father Pluto or Hades. However, Hazel's return to life had a side effect. She would sometimes get blackouts whenever she tried to remember her past, and Nico would worry over her because of them. Soon enough, Hazel was able to get into Camp Jupiter, and she met and became friends with 3 people: Jason Grace, a demigod son of Jupiter who was a praetor, Reyna Ramirez-Arellano, a demigod daughter of Bellona who was another praetor, and Frank Zhang, a demigod who didn't know his godly parent yet. Out of all of them, Frank was the closest with Hazel, and she developed a crush on him. With all of this in mind, let's head to the Lost Hero. Hazel doesn't appear here, and the only mention we ever get of her was through Jason. Jason remembers her as his friend he met in Camp Jupiter, and that's pretty much it. So let's head to the Son of Neptune. We meet Hazel in guard duty with Frank, and they suddenly met a demigod named Percy Jackson. Percy was being chased by Gorgons, and Hazel and Frank helped him defeat them. After the fight, Juno, the Roman queen of the gods, announced that Percy was a son of Neptune and left. Reyna then tells Hazel to escort Percy for questioning, and Hazel gives them a tour of Camp Jupiter. While doing so, they met the Roman legacy of Apollo named Octavian. It's revealed here that Octavian planned to blackmail Hazel into getting a vote for him in the upcoming praetor election, and Hazel gets furious. She walks away with Percy, cursing Octavian's name in the air, and then they met Nico. Unknown to Hazel at the time, Nico and Percy had met in the past, but since Percy's memories were muddled by Hera, Percy doesn't know who Nico is. However, Percy recognized him, but he didn't know why. Hazel then talks to Nico privately, and she suddenly gets a blackout. Nico gets worried about her, but Hazel brushes it off and leaves for dinner. She eats dinner with Percy, Frank, and Dakota, and a war game happens. Hazel, Percy, and Frank win the game. At that moment, Mars, the Roman god of war, came to them and gave them a quest to free Thanatos, the god of death. Mars also claims Frank as his son, which shocked everyone at camp. Mars picked Percy to join the quest, and Percy picked Frank and Hazel to join him. With that, the trio started their journey. The trio gets on a boat, and Hazel gets another blackout. She brushes this off to a worried Frank, and they soon arrived on land. Hazel then gets attacked by Carpoi, but she is saved by Percy and Frank. The trio then met Iris, the goddess of rainbows. There, Hazel and Percy sent Iris' message to Camp Jupiter, and they set sail to Portland, Oregon. They then meet Phineas, a blind seer, and they try to get information from him, but Phineas makes a bargain with them instead. Phineas makes them chase after Ella, a harpy who memorized the prophetic Sibyllin books, in exchange for the info Phineas had. The trio manages to catch Ella, and they decide to keep her instead of giving her to Phineas. Percy then turned the tables and makes a bargain with Phineas. They each took Gorgon's blood in the vial, and Percy made Phineas admit the information first before drinking. Phineas wrote it down on a piece of paper, and he drinks the Gorgon blood. Phineas dies instantly, and on the paper was the location of Alcyones, the giant that Hazel stopped from rising all those years ago. Hazel gets another blackout episode, and she shares it with Frank. Frank in turn explains his weakness, which was a piece of firewood. He tells her that his life was tied to it, and he gives it to her. Hazel is touched by this gesture, and this little moment shows just how much Frank trusted and cared for her. Unknown to Hazel at the time, Frank has been in love with her the whole time, and he's been wanting to tell her, but he didn't know how. The trio then met Hyla, the queen of the Amazons and Reyna's sister. In that encounter, Hazel sees Orion, the horse she saw long ago before she died. The place was suddenly attacked, and Hazel rides Orion with Percy and Frank to get out of there. They then went to Frank's grandmother's place. As they discussed their trip to Alaska, giants surrounded the house and lit it on fire. They escape, but Frank's grandmother dies in the fire, and Hazel comforts Frank. After that, they end up going to Hazel's old house, and they stay there for a few days before traveling again to meet Alcyones. Alcyones had Thanatos captured, and a fight happens. Frank runs to free Thanatos. Hazel fights Alcyones, and Percy fights undead Roman soldiers that Gaia resurrected. Frank then helps Hazel defeat Alcyones, and they ran to help Percy. Percy was able to get the signature eagle of Camp Jupiter, and they go back to camp. Upon arriving, a battle happens, and Hazel helped in the fight. After the battle ended, Hazel admits her feelings to Frank, and the two started dating. So now, let's go to the Mark of Athena. We meet Hazel after the Greeks arrive in Camp Jupiter with Jason, and she was present when they all discussed what happened in the Lost Hero and the Son of Neptune. After a demigod son of Hephaestus named Leo Valdez fires at Camp Jupiter with the Argo II, a fight breaks out, and Hazel along with the rest of the seven climb aboard the ship to escape. Aboard the ship, Hazel met Leo, and she recognized him as Sammy Valdez, as Sammy was actually Leo's grandfather. When Leo announced that they needed supplies to repair the ship, Hazel agrees to join him. There, she met Nemesis, the goddess of revenge, and was told that they had to save Nico, as Nico was captured by giants in Tartarus after trying to find a way to the doors of death. They run to Echo and Narcissus next, and Hazel helped Leo get celestial bronze for the ship. Hazel and Leo go back to the Argo 2, and the two became pretty close. Later, Hazel meets with Annabeth and Piper to talk with the goddess of love Aphrodite. After having a chat with Aphrodite, they were attacked by the Romans, who were chasing them after the incident in Camp Jupiter. A fight breaks out, but Hazel and the rest are saved because Percy conjured up a huge wave that wiped out the Romans. A few days later, Hazel and Leo get into a flashback, and they see Sammy Valdez holding a baby Leo, confirming that Leo was Sammy's grandson. Hazel gets emotional when leaving the flashback, and she cries with Leo. The Argo 2 is being attacked, and Frank witnesses the two of them close together. Frank gets jealous, and they were suddenly locked in an underwater prison. Frank and Leo were locked in the same cell, and Hazel was thrown elsewhere. Hazel manages to save them all by making friends with their captors and convincing them to let them go. Later, the ship was attacked by Chrysaor, and the majority of the 7 were held hostage. Hazel was among the ones captive, but they were all saved by Percy and Frank. A few days later, Hazel, Leo, and Frank go to a pantheon, but are quickly attacked by the Eidolons. Luckily, Leo made a spear that destroyed the creatures, and they all ran out of there. After this, Hazel along with the rest go to the Colosseum to rescue Jason, Percy, Piper, and Nico. Hazel reunites with Nico, and Nico tells the crew about the doors of death and how they had to close it before it was too late. The team then decided to go save Annabeth, and Hazel helped bring the Athena Parthenos to the Argo 2. While doing so, Hazel was the one who noticed that there was spider silk tied to Annabeth's leg, and to her horror, it dragged Annabeth down. Hazel then witnesses Percy go after Annabeth, and both Percy and Annabeth fell into Tartarus. And now, let's go to the House of Hades. Here, the Argo 2 was attacked by earth spirits, and Leo and Hazel get into an argument about what to do. Suddenly, Hazel sees Orion on land, and Hazel tells Leo to drop her off to check the surroundings. On land, Hazel meets Hecate, the goddess of magic. Hecate tells her that Hazel had an affinity for magic, like Hazel's mother Marie, and that Hazel should learn how to master the mist for an upcoming enemy. Hecate also gave her a new route to Italy to quicken up their journey, and Hazel tells Leo about this. As the crew have a meeting, dwarves attack the ship, and Nico was pushed to a wall. Hazel tells Leo to go after the dwarves with Jason, and Hazel stayed with Nico to help him. When the crew landed in Venice, Hazel, Nico, and Frank go on land. While doing so, they were attacked by Catoblemus. Hazel got the worst of the injuries, and Frank brings her to Triptolemus, a minor god. Frank begs Trip to cure Hazel, but Trip refuses because Hazel was a daughter of Pluto. Trip then told Frank that he'll only agree to cure Hazel if Frank gave him a serpent for his chariot, and Frank managed to get him one with the help of Mars. Trip cured Hazel, and they headed back to the Argo 2. The ship was suddenly attacked by Skyron, and Hazel teamed up with Jason to defeat him. Hazel used the mist to trick Skyron, and the plan works. Skyron was killed, and Hazel passed out. She sees Pluto in a dream, and he tells her that he was proud of her. Pluto then says that Hazel is going to face Pasiphae later on in the Necromantion, and to be careful. Aside from Leo, Hazel also became close with Piper. Hazel taught Piper sword fighting while on the ship, and soon enough, Leo comes back to the ship after getting blasted to Ogygia by Chione. The crew then go to Epirus, and they were quickly attacked by monsters. In the chaos, Jason, Nico, Piper, and Frank fight off the monsters, and Hazel and Leo try to find Percy and Annabeth. Before anything else could happen, the tunnel rocks collapsed, and it separated Leo and Hazel from the rest. Hazel broke down crying, and Leo tries to calm her down. The two met Pasiphae and Clytius next, and Pasiphae makes an illusion of the labyrinth with the mist. Hazel fights against this, and manipulates the mist as well. Ultimately, Hazel and Leo defeated Pasiphae, and she witnessed Percy and Annabeth come out of the doors of death. Clytius then comes in and blocks Percy and Annabeth, and in that moment, Hecate appeared. Hecate and Hazel started fighting Clytius, and soon, Jason, Piper, Frank, and Nico came in and witnessed the fight. They help Hazel and Hecate, and the group wins. They escaped the place and met Reyna to discuss the Athena Parthenos. Reyna agreed to bring the Athena Parthenos with Nico and Coach Hedge to unite the two camps. And now, let's go to the Blood of Olympus. In this book, Hazel disguised Jason, Piper, and Annabeth for an undercover mission with the Mist to get some info about Gaia's plans. However, when the trio came back, Jason got a stab wound, and Hazel gets worried about him. A few days later, the seven decided that Percy, Frank, Hazel, and Leo would go to Olympia, and there, they met Nike, the goddess of victory. A fight breaks out, and Hazel got a bit wounded. Frank gives her ambrosia to heal her, and they all head back to the ship. A couple more events happen in this book, and it leads up to Hazel, Frank, and Leo going to Delos where Apollo and Artemis were at. Frank and Hazel talk with Artemis about the Athena Parthenos, and Hazel asks about Nico. Artemis assured Hazel that Nico was still alive, and Frank and Hazel meet Leo later on. Leo ends up spilling his plan of sacrificing himself to defeat Gaia, and Hazel cries and hugs him. Soon enough, the seven reach Athens, and they fought against the giants. At that moment, the gods' identity crisis stopped, and they started fighting side by side with their kids. Pluto came to fight side by side with his daughter Hazel, and together, they defeated Alcyones. When Zeus transports the demigods to Camp Half-Blood, Hazel helped in the fight against Gaia. In the battle, Leo sacrificed himself, and everyone mourned his death. Hazel goes back to Camp Jupiter with Frank, and there, she was promoted to Centurion of the 5th cohort. Hazel then talks with Nico, and they share a sweet brother and sister moment, with Nico comforting Hazel about Leo's death. And that's how the book ends for Hazel. Hazel's journey doesn't end here, so tune in for part 2 on the life of Hazel Levesque, where we'll talk about what happens to her in the Trials of Apollo, the books after the Blood of Olympus. So how about you? What's your favorite Hazel moment? Let me know in the comments down below.